I did that interview process the next day on site at Grace Hopper and then got the job in the airport on my way home.
You said at the airport?
Yes, like I was leaving the conference, got to the airport, and they called me and was like, hey, like we're going to give you the internship. I was like, oh my gosh.
That's wild. So welcome to the Hacker House and episode number 10 of Boba Talk, a brand new podcast that demystifies everything you want to know about the coding journey. Today we have a special guest, Jovanay Carter, ex-Google technical recruiter, CS master student at the University of Chicago, and the co-founder and CEO of the Differencee, an AI mock interview and job prep for students and career switchers in tech. I'm super excited about this because Jovanay has been on both sides of the hiring table, and we're going to chat about resumes, LinkedIn profiles, job hunting, the interview, and how to land your first job in tech in 2025. Welcome, Jovanay. How have you been?
I'm good. I'm so excited about this. I've been really good. I think the year is moving quickly.
By the way, when was the last time we met and last time we chatted? It's been 2+ years, right?
Yeah. For those who don't know, Sunny and I worked together at Codédex a few years ago. Probably the last time I saw you was the acquisition party when they got, or somewhere around that time.
So it's been a minute. All right. Before we dive into your origin story, Jovanay, maybe what we can do is a quick lightning round. We've never done this before, but basically I'm going to ask you 5 rapid fire questions and maybe just like give us like the first thing that comes to mind. Cool?
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. So first one, how many resumes do you think you've looked at in your recruiting career?
Over 20,000.
Over 20,000. Wow. And myth or fact, is it true that on average, employers or recruiters only look at a resume for 6 seconds?
Closer to a fact than a myth.
And what do you think is the best platform for job hunting in 2025? LinkedIn, Twitter,
I think you're going to have depending on the role you're going after, right? But if most people here are going after some tech roles, I would say probably LinkedIn. But really the answer is if you know somebody.
Fair. And what is the most important thing on a LinkedIn profile?
Probably the design of it, which sounds skeptical and you're like, all this great stuff I've done. But to be honest, if your pictures aren't clear and your title isn't clear and it doesn't look like you ever tried, that stuff kind of matters.
Totally agree. And what about one interview tip that's overrated and one that's underrated?
One underrated tip is the follow-up. People just do not follow up in the ways that they should. If you meet someone and they're like, yeah, let me know how I can help, actually let them know. If they don't get back to you, follow up in 2 weeks, follow up again. That is super underrated. It helps you keep someone at the top of your mind. Overrated tip, that's a tough one.
Okay.
Overrated tip, I don't know, maybe cover letters. I don't think
cover letters, fair.
As they seem.
By the way, I agree with so much of that. I'm nitpicky about the follow-ups. It's a huge bonus point for me if somebody follow up within the next, at least within 30 minutes or an hour, right? It feels like that person got their crap together, you know?
Yeah. Or if I have a lot going on and I forget, the role is not the top of mind because I'm looking at 10 other roles, you being like, hey, what's the latest? It actually helps me be on my game.
Wait, what do you mean?
As a recruiter, if a candidate is if we haven't gotten back to a candidate in a week and they say, hey, I haven't heard from you guys in a week, that helps be oh, my bad. I missed that. I'm handling 10 other roles. Let me give you your feedback. So sometimes it helps, as a bump.
Since you said that, what's the amount of days? I think people always overthink this, but what's the amount of days before you should bump a recruiter or bump a hiring manager?
I would say it depends on the stage you're at. But let's say you're in the middle of the interview process, you're maybe in between technical rounds or something. I would give it a week. I wouldn't wait longer than 2 weeks. And then if you're in final rounds, you're waiting on an offer, I would give it maybe 2 days.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's very short. All right, very nice. So let's take a step back and go over your origin story. You have a very colorful history, right? From self-taught developer to bootcamp grad to recruiter. So do you just want to share a little bit how you got into recruiting?
Yeah, I did anthropology. So I went to Dartmouth for undergrad. I studied anthropology and African American studies. I did a lot of like cultural studies, and I love that piece. Then went into executive search for nonprofits and education systems. I got a little bit of FOMO during the pandemic because I was like, I actually do kind of like tech. It seems like a cool place to work. I had a lot of friends that were working in tech. I was also potentially interested in coding, but I wasn't quite sure yet. So my friends were like, why don't you just try to work for a tech company and see if you like the vibes? And then maybe you can switch into engineering if you're interested. And so I was like, okay, cool. Happened to be that Codecademy was like hiring. So I just sort of fought hard for that role. I got the job, and that's how I started recruiting in tech.
Oh, wow. Cool. Very nice. Yo, I didn't know this is your first job in tech.
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
So you worked on the curriculum team, right? Or did you work both for curriculum and the eng team on the recruiting side?
On the recruiting side, I started working for the curriculum team. So that means I was hiring people who wrote curriculum, like who wrote the content that you would read in courses. I would also hire people who manage curriculum. So both like the short-term, part-time gigs that you can get just writing like courses, and then also people who worked full-time in curriculum. And then later in, probably like a year or so in, I also started hiring for data science roles.
Cool. And what about that transition from Codecademy to Google? Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I loved Codecademy. It was growing very rapidly. The time I was there, it had grown from like 100 people when I came to about maybe 220 or so by the time I left. And we had gotten acquired. I really wasn't looking to go anywhere because I really liked the team. I loved the company. But once the acquisition happened, usually that means that the HR team usually gets hit the hardest because they probably don't need to hire for a while, and they actually might even need to do some cuts and things like that start to happen. And so I knew that I needed to look for a new opportunity. And Google approached me during that time, and they were doing a big hiring round for some of their privacy teams and some of their data teams. So I went and started working, for the Google New York office. I hired for Android operating systems and privacy teams.
What happened with the CS master program? What's that about?
Like, how does that come up, right?
Yeah.
Well, before Codecademy was closing, I actually had been like really trying to, instead of trying to go upward in recruiting, I have been trying to move laterally into a junior level engineering role. And they were like, do a bunch of courses and maybe try your hand at some hackathons, try to network internally and see what can happen. And so that's what I was doing. I had done a couple hackathons with the team. I was excited to potentially do that. But during the acquisition, I was like, okay, I probably have to take a different route. So when I got to Google, I talked to my managers about it. Like, hey, I know you hired me for recruiting, but I actually want to do engineering. So maybe we can work it into the plan for the next couple months. And my manager was super gracious. He was like, oh, I definitely get it. I told him I was thinking about doing a master's or something like that, part-time, that I could still do. And, Google has so many education benefits. So my thought is that would even be better because they would pay for some of it. So I applied to the University of Chicago's master program, which was, I applied part-time. And the goal there was a lot of their program was for people who were not traditional students or who didn't major in CS undergrad. They had like an extra course load for those types of students. And then they also had a part-time program. And so my manager wrote a recommendation letter for me to get into that program, and I got in.
Nice. Yeah, congrats.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, before we dive into the dev difference, there's so much to cover, I just realized. And I don't even know where to start. So in 2025, it's only February. Okay.
Great.
31 tech companies have laid off 7,000 employees, and we're the 5th day of February. A lot of people in this room are similar to what you just said, came from non-traditional backgrounds. I feel like I have so much there are a few areas to discuss. One is resumes, one is LinkedIn profiles, one is the job hunting process, the interview. Which one do you want to dive into first?
Let's talk about the resume.
Cool, resume. And by the way, before we do this, we do have a little plug. We're actually doing a Roast My Resume challenge this month that we're literally just dropped 30 minutes ago. So definitely check this out. But for you, Jovanay, what are some common pitfalls that you see? What are, you mentioned it is more like a fact and a myth that people only spend 6 seconds.
Yeah, good question. I think the number one thing with resume is like making it as clean as possible. I know people who will cancel you for a typo. And that's because we're going through thousands of resumes. Like you have to find something to be nitpicky about. I mean, there are people who are not nitpicky about that, but a lot of times it's the hire manager who's like, no, because if they're making a typo on their resume, they don't pay attention to details. So I would say be very clean. Like use a template that is tried and true. I know we're in an age where everyone is trying to design something and make it super creative. Unless you're applying for some UI UX job or you are applying to be a creative director. Even in those situations, I'm still kind of like, I would go clean over anything. Use a template that people, is tried and true. Potentially, I wouldn't necessarily put your photo, especially if you're applying for like typical engineering or very basic roles. I would maybe put a photo if you're doing something creative. Again, like use what works for your industry. Say less. Like a lot of people have resumes that are like pages and pages. And I'm like, what is all of this? I'm not reading any of this. It's just a measure of whether or not you can be concise in your word choice and like actually say what you did for a company as opposed to say, well, I spent 10 years here, so I want to tell you every project I ever worked on. I actually don't care. I just want to know what you did overall. And you could actually say that in maybe a sentence. And that is more impressive than you doing multiple pages.
Okay. Let's say you're hiring for a technical role. Let's say entry-level software engineer or data scientist. Is it a bonus to have, let's say, your GitHub link and your personal portfolio website? Yeah, let's just start from there.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I preach on personal portfolios all the time. Like your GitHub link is nice, but you have to remember that most of the people who see your resume first have no idea how to read through a GitHub. So keep that potentially for the hiring manager. But if you have projects that you can showcase in some way, like if you have done a YouTube talkback about your project where you're walking through it, or you have a website link so someone can go play with a game that you created, any of that is going to be so much more valuable. Like thinking about the user as like an everyday person who probably is not going to go read through your GitHub code, but maybe they would play with an app that you created or watch a video of you discussing something that you did. Putting those links within the resume, like I have in my descriptions, I'll have a link to the project that I did, or even adding it at the top for your personal projects that you've done. Like if you have a website where you have listed all your personal projects, that's perfect at the top. And if you don't, just have links to different things that they can see and interact with throughout your resume.
And by the way, when you said the video part, is it just like a quick 60-second walkthrough of the project, like with like a demo?
I would say it doesn't have to be 60 seconds. It can be elaborate. I would say keep it under 5 minutes. But just some video is helpful to see how you talk about your project, your passion for it, and then maybe even show a little bit you can show either how it works, or you could go into the code a little bit and be like, here's why I made this decision, why I made this trade-off. Overall, I was trying to do this. Like you can get technical, but the goal is to give a good overall and, just make your project come to life a little bit more.
Awesome. Yeah, I've never heard that before. I'm going to start recommending that.
Yeah. And quick story on that, Sonny. I had a candidate who was maybe a sophomore in college or something like that. I was very hesitant to hire him because we hadn't hired a lot of people who had been in college, just because questionable if you can manage that extra course load. But he had a project. He had a personal website where he had a bunch of his projects. And one of his projects, he had like a video of him walking through his project. And I brought it up in the interview and he just went on and on about it. He was so excited. And that actually, like, we hired him and he went on to like get hired full time. It was one of the top performers in the curriculum writers, but just an example of someone whose project definitely got him the job.
Awesome. All right. So on this topic, you mentioned the sophomore, and a lot of people, even in this room, might be CS students who are looking their first gig in tech or first apprenticeship or internship. There's always this no experience paradox or the chicken egg problem, right? Like you don't have too many experiences, but you want to get that first experience. How does a CS student structure their resume to land their first job if they don't have any work experience? Do you have any like hacks for this?
Okay. I would put at the top that you're in school. Like put at the top education. I would also put actually above that. And I did resume counseling for college students for like a year and a half. I would really recommend putting an objective at the top. And I know most people skip objectives or summaries these days, but when you're in college and I don't know what you want to do after, I don't know what you're passionate about, you just have basic courses, it's hard for me to place you and be like, oh, okay, I can see them doing this like back end work because they really care about that. Also, keep in mind that the objective is plain English, whereas most recruiters, they're looking for plain English versus a hiring manager who can potentially look through your experiences and projects and be like, okay, it's clear that they want to work on the operating system level. So not everyone will have that understanding of what these words mean on your projects. On your resume. So I would say put an objective, put your education at the top. Say things like, here are some awards I got or some honors. Here are the classes that I've taken. Like try as much as you can to be plain English without being too talkative. And then for your experiences, if you don't have any experiences, then just put your projects. And then maybe you have some work experience and you can highlight maybe you did something for your mom's business or you did something like that. But I would really hone in on projects. And then if you don't have any experience, but you just have projects, that's where I would really make those videos and things like that to showcase your experiences.
And would you recommend the same thing for, let's say, a self-taught or a bootcamp grad? Or is that game a little bit different?
For a self-taught or bootcamp grad, if you have additional experience outside of like, if you've done something else, let's say you were a teacher or I met someone who used to be a pilot and was like applying for a job.
Okay. If
you have other experiences, don't leave that out. Like definitely write that somewhere. Say that in the objective. Be like, I used to be a pilot, but I want to be a software engineer now. And so I switched careers. Like that makes you stand out. It makes you memorable. I wouldn't shy away from it. I would still put projects at the top of your resume, but then keep a section at the bottom that's like, and I don't want you to go pages on it, but just keep a section at the bottom that's like, I used to do this other thing. Here are some highlights of what I achieved and maybe some transferable skills that I got through that other thing.
Yeah, I think that's actually a pretty common question we get in the community is like, hey, I was a Starbucks barista. Do I put that out there or not? But it sounds like, according to you, is your objective first. You're like a one-liner first, right? But by the way, is that a one-liner or is it just like a 2 or 3 sentences?
I can go no more than 3 lines.
Okay.
Two lines is good. No more than 3.
So, objective and then your projects first. Once you have the work experience, you probably put the work experience first, right? Instead of the projects?
Right. If you have relevant work experience, you put that first. So relevant means the industry that you're applying to. Have you done that before? Let's say you're a teacher and you teach science, but you're applying to be a software engineer. That is questionable. It depends. If you've ever taught computer science, maybe that would be relevant. But if you mostly taught chemistry, it's probably not the first thing you want to put on your resume. Like put your projects up top and then your other parts at the bottom. I always say, like, assume that the recruiter will only read the top third of your resume.
Okay. That's where the 6 seconds will come from?
Yeah, because it's like, okay, what's on here? All right. Do I even want to look down?
Right.
And I'm not saying that people are that harsh. They usually are not. But it's just like any speech or any presentation. You want to say the grabber in the first part.
Totally.
So that you have their attention.
A lot of people also asked, on the skills part, if you're applying for a technical role, like the libraries and frameworks that should that go at the top or towards the bottom if you're looking for a entry-level role? Just because a lot of people have been talking about the ATS, applicant tracking system, or whatever it stands for. So just want to get your take on that.
Yeah, I would put it at the top. I would put it at the top. Unless your experiences are better, then I would put it at the bottom. By better, I mean if you have experiences that hit on that topic, like let's say you don't have experiences, but you have a project that you did some computer vision thing and you have another project where you made a whole game, that is more impressive than you just write in the word computer vision. So I would say whichever one is more impressive, put that at the top.
Okay.
Oh, I should say about colors.
Okay. Colors.
It's okay to use a color. I wouldn't go crazy. Like, again, with the templates, I really wouldn't go crazy. Go tried and true, black and white. I would recommend that over like all the colors and all the different templates and Canva. It's like, you submit the PDF, make sure it's a PDF and not a Word doc or something else. And just don't go crazy.
Right. You know what's funny? You probably wouldn't hire me because my resume does have color. It's like a blue color. I use blue color. I had a photo. This is back in the day, a couple years ago.
You can have
I'm like, dang, I'm just like making all the mistakes.
It's not bad. It's just that it's a distraction, and you would just rather someone. I mean, it can be memorable though. I saw someone who did it really well. He had a really creative, and I remember his resume because, you know, again, we don't see your faces. We like remember clips of your resume as your face, right? I remember he had this section. He had one of those resumes with a left panel and then a big middle section. And his left panel had this like handwritten note on it that was like, reasons why you should hire me. And it was like his about section. Right. And it was really crafty and well done. But again, the reason I don't recommend those is because they can kind of get out of hand and then be distracting.
So I'm actually a sucker for that sort of thing. And I remember I used to try to stand out in my resume too, because I didn't have any connections, right? So I was like, how do I really stand out to get my hit rate higher? I remember writing in the skill section of my resume, like JavaScript, Python, libraries and frameworks. But also I added the word resilience. I remember one of the recruiter did say that was like a nice little extra touch. I added my hobbies in there too. So I guess it depends on who you talk to. Is it a startup or a big company, right?
Yeah, I do love seeing hobbies. I love seeing hobbies. I tell the students I work with all the time to put their hobbies, because otherwise it's just like data structure, algorithm. It's like, you know, if you can make some personality come out, that's nice. You don't necessarily need, you know, a legally blonde pink paper to do that.
True. And by the way, Jovanay, do you have your resume that you can share with the folks after this?
Yeah, I sure can. Yeah.
Amazing. Cool. We can drop in Discord later.
And it's some blue in there.
There's some blue in there.
It's some blue in there.
All your own advice.
See,
that's what I'm saying. Like, there are rules, but it's okay to sort of, go over a little bit, go over the line a little bit. Cool. All right. So let's talk about LinkedIn profiles. To me, I think I see more LinkedIn profiles than resumes now, even during the hiring process, right? Because almost like LinkedIn profile is kind of like your first. By the way, we did a lot of hiring for Codédex almost exclusively through LinkedIn. Okay. So I almost see your LinkedIn before I see your resume. See your LinkedIn name, your little bio, like the one-liner, where you're from and all that before your resume. So just want to get your take. You mentioned the design earlier, the taste of it, but are there other common mistakes that you keep seeing people make on their LinkedIn profile?
I think LinkedIn is a tricky beast. It requires a lot of keywords. Unfortunately. And you kind of don't want to seem like you're doing that to a human reader, but you need the computer to acknowledge that you have these skills. So you kind of need to figure out how to hide all those keywords all over your profile. A good way to do that is put in a ton of skills.
Wait, and where? Like in your bio or in the
skills section?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
In the skill section. If you have a bunch of stuff in the skill section, it will categorize you so that when people or recruiters search a certain thing, you'll still come up, but it won't be all over your profile. Another way to do that is like your bio has some stuff, but you, at the bottom of it, you just put a bunch of keywords. And I think my bio has something like that. It says topics interested in, and then it's just a bunch of keywords. I do that to come up in searches. So I would really recommend like putting more words than you think. And it seems cringy, and it is cringy, but you're talking more to a computer than a human through LinkedIn.
Dang, I think I need to do that. Because now by the way, while you're saying, I looked through my own LinkedIn, I was like, dang, I don't have any information. Like, it's so vague and mysterious. Now I'm like, I probably need to beef it up a little bit. Cool. Any other like nuances on
other nuances are a few things. Some people have titles that don't really make sense.
Okay.
And people search titles. Like they'll search full stack engineer. And if you don't have the title full stack engineer, that could actually harm you. So what I would say is like put that somewhere else in your profile. I wouldn't necessarily say that everybody can just go changing the title on their LinkedIn, but it depends on what you're doing and what you're trying to get after, and if your company literally just makes up words versus if you actually are not doing that job, I would not put that. But if you are doing that job, but your company is like, I used to be an executive search analyst, but my title was not executive search analyst. And so no one would have known that I worked in executive search because my title was research analyst. So I changed it to say executive search analyst. It doesn't offend my company, and it also doesn't misdirect someone to what I'm actually doing. It actually points you to be more clear on what I'm doing.
So what about a bootcamp graduate, a non-traditional background, self-taught learner, and a CS graduate? What do you recommend like the bios to look like? Is the same thing like an objective on a resume?
Bios need to be keyword heavy. You need to hide keywords somehow. It should be like a grabber. It shouldn't be like a resume. It should be a little bit more, because a resume, you have like 2 lines. You don't have a lot of space. A bio, you actually want to use more space than not, because you need to say a bunch of words. But you still want to talk to the human too. So it's a delicate balance. I would spend, and this is what I do on, if anybody goes and looks at my LinkedIn, well, Jesus, I don't know what it says right now, but generally I would spend the first like 2 paragraphs talking to a human. And then the next sections that people probably won't open to scroll down, talking to the computer.
I like that.
Yeah.
So the 2-1 rule.
Right. I would do that. Cool. Same thing with your descriptions under your jobs. Like spend the first part talking to a human and then talk to the computer. Meaning, like, I don't just mean say computer vision, this. I mean, say other things I worked on. This, and this. And like still make it readable to a human, but you're really talking to the computer.
And how important is LinkedIn in part of your recruiting process and resumes? Is it just like,
huge.
It's
huge. Well, I will say for the Dev Difference, we do most of our hiring in person these days. So we like to hire people we meet, and we like to hire users. But in prior jobs, I did a lot of LinkedIn searching. And it's tough. You have to come up. It's the hardest part. You have to come up in the algorithm. When I search full stack engineer, like what makes you come up? You have to have a ton of keywords that's going to make you come up. I'm probably going to search, let's say I was hiring for Codédex. I'd search New York, or depending on if you guys require New York or not, I'd search engineer or developer, one of those 2 words. And maybe I'd search React. Those words have to come up. I don't search loves cats.
Really? That's how you do it? You literally search for this?
Yeah, you search those words and then you go through pages and pages and pages of people.
Whoa.
But LinkedIn does all the other filtering, and you don't want to search too narrow or else people don't come up. Like, so you want to try to search as broadly as possible. But then again, you just get too many people. So you kind of got to narrow somehow.
So my understanding was, in the recruiting process, you're almost doing the inbounds rather than going outbound and reach out to these people. Like, why not just create a LinkedIn job like a job board, job post, and wait for people to come?
Yeah, you could. I mean, that's definitely a technique. I like to do both, like as a recruiter, but it depends on the role. Some roles get a ton of inbound applicants. I had a UX role once that had like, I had to keep turning the role off because every day it was on, it got like 50 applicants.
Right.
So I would turn it on. That's another key with applying to jobs. Like, if you could catch these roles day of that they're posted or
totally
days, like that's huge.
Yeah.
Because they get turned off because so many applicants apply.
Yeah.
So we would turn it on for a day, turn it off. I'd look through like 50 applicants, turn it back on for a day, turn it off. That's great when you have high inbound. But when you don't have high inbound, let's say you're looking for someone more specific, or you just want to make sure that the role gets to the right person. Let's say I wanted to make sure that the person had education experience, not just that they were technical. Then I would potentially put things in LinkedIn to add this extra piece to make sure they have that extra piece. Or also another thing we used to search at Codecademy all the time is B2B, which is so hard because like
B2B?
Who's putting that on their LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, that's random. Like B2B sales representatives? Or what are you talking about?
Yeah,
like
we
B2B
would do
engineers?
we weren't doing that necessarily for engineers, but I remember some of the marketing roles, like you had to find someone who worked B2B.
That's fair.
So another way we would do it, we'd either search the term B2B or we'd put in companies that were like us and we look for if they worked at that company, which if you haven't worked at the company like that, like how are you getting in those filters? It's just, you kind of got to play the keyword game on LinkedIn.
Fair. By the way, I hope I never have to search for B2B. That sounds terrible.
Yeah, right?
My passion is B2B.
My in-person is my thing. Like I'd rather meet someone.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Sure. That's a great segue. So you mentioned this during the rapid fire, I think networking, and you also just mentioned now that you hire more in person now. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about that? Like, is this by the way, I always recommend people. I think Eric here, the community manager at Codédex, also recommend a ton about networking and job hunting in person. But do you just want to talk about your process? And if you are a CS undergrad who's about to graduate soon, how would you utilize in-person events to land your first gig?
Yeah. Well, I guess I can tell a little bit as my experience, like looking for jobs in my master's. So when I first started the master's, I didn't have my own company yet, where I kind of did, but it was still developing. I wasn't really sure if I was going to do that for real. And so I was looking for internships. I was looking for jobs. I went to a conference. I applied through my school. Like they sent out an email that was like, hey, we're going to send some people to the Grace Hopper conference. Apply. So I wrote this long essay. I later found out that everybody else wrote like 2 sentences. But I wrote this long essay. Like I need to go to this conference because I need a job. Like I have a lot resting on this, right? So I got in.
This year?
This was last year.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So I got in, I went to the Grace Hopper conference, and I was just at the booths. It was also kind of crazy because that was like a year where the conference was crazy and people were like literally being violent to try to get to certain booths. So I would not recommend that. I was not on that vibe. I was just walking around looking for the people who wanted to talk to somebody nice. I think I said good morning to some lady, and she was like, oh my gosh, that's the type of energy we need. And part of that was because so many people were being violent and rude that it was just kind of refreshing to see someone just like, hi, good morning, with a smile. And she was like, wow, come talk to my manager. Like, you're the type of person who we'd actually rather talk to.
Right.
And so that's sort of how I got that, and just being able to communicate and talk like a human in person.
Totally.
So I would definitely say conferences are huge. I did that interview process the next day on site at Grace Hopper, and then got the job on my way, like in the airport on my way home at Grace Hopper.
Wow. So you said at the airport?
Yes, like I was leaving the conference, got to the airport, and they called me and was like, hey, like we're gonna give you the internship. I was like, oh my gosh.
That's wild.
Yeah, I was so excited. And at that point I was like, great. Like I had barely started school, and I had a lot of practice leading up to starting school. So I wasn't like a very new programmer at this point. Like I knew how to answer some basic questions in Python. And so they asked me some basic questions, and I did the technical interview on site. But I think like being able to like communicate well and just be able to like be a human it really stands out. Yeah.
That's awesome. Huge congrats. Like,
yeah, thank you.
I've been to so many conferences. I don't think I ever landed much of anything, It's always just small talk and like add on LinkedIn and just kind of like, so I guess I need to get better at that. That's why I have like PTSD from conferences. Like, no. By the way, for the last 2 years, I didn't go to any big events or conferences. We've just been heads down focused building. But I think there's a part of me that's like, should I be doing a little bit more of that? Like, could I create more, serendipity or, like being where proximity, like being close to where the action is? Yeah. Because there's so many foot traffic, right? Like, at an airport, leaving the conference, you landed the internship.
Yeah. Right? Oh, yeah.
So
you really could. Although I wouldn't recommend going up to recruiters outside of the time when they're recruiting, because they hate that.
Right.
Like people coming up to them on their lunch break and stuff, they hate that.
Right.
So don't do that at a conference unless they talk to you and it's or actually dinners are a great chance to do that.
Dinners?
Yeah, like I've gone to, we were at Afrotech, and just having dinner, like there was a company hosted dinner, and, just talking to different people and then being like, oh, if I could put a referral in for you for anything, like, let me know. That's huge. Take that as a win. Yeah, but I would say from a recruiting perspective of in-person events, like it is all about like, honestly, 100%. You talk to like thousands of people. It is about who you remember. It is not about who has the best skill set. It is about who is the most memorable. One of the things I used to tell students, or we still do this in workshops, we tell students, when you talk to a recruiter, like, drop a fun fact. Like, be a person. Be like, oh yeah, like, I've been teaching myself to code. I graduated last year, but I'm super excited about this. But I also like ski on weekends or something. Like, whatever it is that makes you memorable, or it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It could be like, my fun fact is that I have 6 siblings, and people are like, wow, really?
I didn't know that.
And that's a true statement.
Yeah.
And then I usually start talking about my siblings, and that's not, I don't have to do anything or spend any money to have that fact about me. It just is.
Right.
Yeah.
What are some advice of somebody just starting out, walking up to a recruiter to open up a conversation? By the way, a lot of people here have imposter syndrome, gets nervous talking to strangers. Any advice on this area? How to just like start the conversation with a recruiter?
Yeah. Part of it is to practice. And I think that's part of the reason we have the dev difference. But even practicing with your friends, like practice talking about yourself. Practice your pitch. Practice your elevator pitch. Practice not having an elevator pitch and just talking about, like, if someone asks you, wait, what was the project that you did? Like, practice not giving the elevator pitch version, but just giving the human version. Like, practice talking like a human, and it will really go so far, because people will remember that you were genuine. And that's ultimately what they're looking for.
And by the way, if any of the team member, if you have any questions about LinkedIn profiles or resumes, feel free to jump on. Jovanay, we host a lot of resume review and LinkedIn review workshops. We host about once a month. Right, just going through the resumes, going through the LinkedIn. We have been giving a lot of feedback. By the way, a lot of your takes are actually pretty different. So, and I trust your advice more than mine. You know.
No.
So, if there's any team members that have questions, feel free to just cut in and jump on. Especially you, Eric.
I saw someone's question about low-cost conferences. Yeah, another way to like do that in-person network is just events, like in your area, like Code or Blue 10. I don't know where you live, but if there are events in your area, like for instance, I live in Chicago. I follow this page called Gen AI Collective. I follow them on, I think I first found them on, what is it, Luma or something? Like some new app.
Okay.
That has a bunch of events. Oh, it's called Pi. It's a new app that has basically event. Luma, yeah.
Oh, Luma.
Both of those have like events. Also, just like looking on LinkedIn for events. Go to events 100%. Like, that is such a easier way to navigate networking. It's only a few hours. People are a little bit more open to conversations than the overwhelmingness of a conference anyway. So I would definitely say, like, look in your area for events. If a company you like is hosting something, like, go check it out. The first internship I ever got, and granted, it was theater internship, but it was not like a posting. It was just, I went to a show, and then after the show, I was like, this show was great. And I went up to the guy and was like, hi, like, this show was great. I need an internship. Are you guys hiring? And they were like, no, not exactly, but what do you want? I was like, well, I want an internship. And you don't even have to pay me like a lot. I just want like enough to live, and I like theater, and like, how can we work this out? And they were like, well, call me next week. And then I got an internship. It wasn't like a posting online. Like, some things are just natural.
Yeah. That's honestly the way to go. Because if you go to a conference, you're fighting against 1,000 other people at a recruiting booth. Just talking to somebody outside one-on-one, asking for a gig, I think that's still a way to go. That's the way I like to be approached. Yeah. We set up a booth at WeCode at Harvard last year. By the way, the Dev Difference should definitely set up a booth there.
Oh, what is it?
WeCode, yeah. It's at Harvard, and I don't know the number of people that went. It's a Gen Z Women Tech Conference. That's right. And we set a booth. I probably, by the end of the 2 hours booth session, like the networking session, I probably had 200 resumes in my laptop case.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
200 resumes. I'm not going to go through it again, right? I feel so bad, but, the conversation that I remember are the ones that somebody come up to me when I'm walking towards the bathroom or something. Oh, hey, aren't you the guy from Codédex? I'm like, yeah. And they like talk a little bit, right? And I'm like, and I remember there was a lot more because I'm focused on this one person rather than, 200 people.
Right. Yeah, we've done some campus recruiting. That's mostly where we've hired people so far. We've gone to DePaul and UChicago and hired on campus during their campus recruiting day. So if you are in a university, go to the career fair. Go to the companies that are not as well known, like, because they're probably way more lenient with hiring and they probably have less applicants. So it's easier to make your way. And then also like Google the company, like have something to say when you get up to the booth. Be like, some kid came up to me and was like, oh, I saw your pitch. I was like, wait, what? Like you are researched. It doesn't require all of that. I'm not saying do that, but I'm saying like, if you Google it and you're like, oh, this is a climate tech company. Like I work on, I volunteer at the climate health organization or something. Like find those similarities and go to those companies and you'll really stand out. I actually write on resumes as people give them to me at conferences or in career fairs. Like I write what I remember about that person right there in front of them. Like, and I won't write like, ooh, full stack. I'll write like has cats. And that will jog my memory about that person.
Right.
Yeah.
On the topic of campus recruiting events, what do you usually look for? By the way, this is actually a question from Discord, from Amin. For students breaking into tech, what do recruiters usually look for during these recruitment sessions for fresh graduates or people who are about to graduate? What type of backgrounds are you looking for?
Yeah, it's tough. Again, like it's so general. Everyone can code and everyone has the same skill set. As much as you can, like interest in the company and showing expression that you are interested in that company actually stands out more, which is not necessarily something you could put on your resume unless you just genuinely like have already done a bunch of, like if you did a bunch of climate tech projects and this is a climate tech company, then, be passionate when you get up there because you're like, you and me, we go together real bad. But if that's not the case and you've done a bunch of general software engineering projects and you're trying to get a general sweet role, like really honing in the fact that you care about the company and you're interested. I don't know. What do you think, Sonny? I that's what I would say to get past like the general herd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Personally, every hiring manager have different biases, right? And unfortunately, I have a ton of biases. I love people who, I don't care about GPA at all, but I love when I see interesting, authentic projects, right? Because I'm a builder myself. And when I'm hiring for Codédex, I kind of want to see some cool, creative, authentic, different outlier projects. I'm not talking about a landing page for like Spotify. I'm talking about a mini game, right? We're a gamified platform. Like this room right now is gamified, right? So if I see a gamified something, that's a huge bonus for me, right? So I usually look for things like that. Yeah, I'm very much focused on projects actually. Yeah. Even more so than other hiring managers. Yeah. All right, let's talk about dev difference, or should we talk about referrals, or do you want to dive into dev difference?
But I think I touched a little bit on referrals,
okay,
which is if you know someone or if you meet someone at an event and they can give you a referral, like, and don't be afraid to ask, like, hey, like, I really enjoyed this conversation. Like, I'm applying to a couple of roles through the website. Could I reach out to you for a referral? Most of them will be like, yeah, sure. Because they get paid if you come. So.
Right. Oh, yeah. That's a secret that nobody knows, that referrals actually get paid. Right?
Yeah, they get
Imagine
paid like $5,000 up to that. Like, if they hire someone that is referred. So.
Yeah. I have there are people that we both know that just like referral machines.
Right.
We probably make more from referrals than their monthly salary. But anyway, cool. So let's talk about Dev Difference. This is your new startup, Jovanay. Huge congrats on getting it up and running. I checked it out. It looks awesome. So do you just want to share with the audience what it is? I'm sure a lot of people here in this room and on Boba Talk will be perfect users for this platform.
Yeah. I just put the link in the chat too. So the Dev Difference is our little baby. It is an interview prep platform for you to practice talking and feeling confident in these situations like we're describing, both in interviews and when you're going into like sort of less formal interview, which is kind of like maybe you're talking to a recruiter and you need to practice your elevator pitch. Those essential questions that you probably just need to be ready with, like, tell me about yourself or walk me through your resume, all the way up through like, elite codes sort of coding questions. We also have questions and like we try to base interviews based on the role that you're interested in. So we have everything from UI UX to product managers, to data science, software engineers, and we make it so that you can actually type in a role and we'll generate questions based on that role if we don't have that. So a lot of people come in and practice marketing questions and questions to get into grad school and things like that.
Nice. And what's the story there? Oh, but by the way, before you answer that, this is cool because for a lot of people here, like I'm a huge introvert. And I honestly, before I became a classroom teacher, I dreaded any sort of in-person anything. You know? So this is great. And this is actually something that we even at Codédex have talked about of building, but now we can just probably send people to your platform. But do you just want to share a little bit about why you started this?
For that reason, I think I saw a lot of candidates. I did a lot of in-person hiring, both at Codecademy and Google. Also, I worked at another company last year called Purchasing Platform in Chicago. It was like an e-commerce startup. So recruiting for those platforms, also just doing virtual recruiting, like sitting in interviews with people, I noticed that there was such a lack of confidence and ability to communicate your value. And unfortunately, like as talented as someone might be technically, if they cannot confidently get me to think that you can do the job, then I don't believe you. So it's so much about like how you communicate yourself and how you communicate your value, even before you get the chance to do the technical interview. Like a lot of it is the pre-screen. You know, depending on if you're an undergrad and you might go through an online assessment first, but as soon as you pass that online assessment, you're gonna have to talk to a human. And if you have not practiced doing that, it's so intimidating. And if the first time you practice is during the interview, you mess up, you trip up. And so the goal is to give you a place to practice and get better so that when you actually go through the interview, you're ready.
Amazing. I'm definitely going to keep up with your startup journey.
Yeah. Thank you. Plus, I love keeping up with you guys and how much you're building. It's so exciting. And yeah, it's really cool to see so many users come, or just learners in general come through Codédex. I hope that it will be the case for the Dev Difference soon. I'm excited about that.
Cool. And before we dive into some questions from the community, there is one word that you mentioned is sourcing. So maybe just for the audience here, can you just touch a little bit about the whole recruiting process? Because it has several stages, right? Sourcing, pre-screening, technical interview, cultural interviews. What's like the average time? And can you just like go through that a little bit more before we dive into the questions from the audience?
Yeah. And we just ran a bunch of surveys on this too. So largely, it takes about 2 months to hire a full-time technical person on a team. So that is from when you kick off the role internally. So this is before we post the job, before anybody knows about it. You have conversations internally about what this role is, what we want to hire for. A lot of times you get maybe 70% of that right. And there's still 30% that you're figuring out as you're interviewing people. You post the job description and then applicants start coming in. They start applying. And so that's called an inbound candidate, is when you actually apply to the job and no one has to go ask you, hey, did you see my job? You want to apply? So those are inbound candidates that come in. A lot of jobs these days are like, because of the economy right now, it's just a lot of inbound hiring, meaning like we can sort of just sit on the fact that someone who is good and qualify will apply to the job and I don't have to go seek someone. But let's say I have a role that might be like something niche to my area or something like that, then I have to go find someone who can do this job. And so that is called sourcing, when you go on the interwebs and you are looking for different people, or you're calling around or asking your friends and your peers, like, hey, do you know anyone who can do this? Or you're posting on things and you're like, hey, anyone interested in this sort of role, share my post. Like, I'm getting the word out there. I need someone who can make a helicopter out of Legos. Like, can you find me that? That is sourcing. And then once you pull in different people do it different ways. Some teams do it like, and this is actually more for university hiring and apprentice hiring and things like that, or early career hiring. They pull applications, meaning like they'll let people apply for a certain amount of time and then they'll basically go through all of those applications. But most hiring in general works like as applicants come in, they're reading the applications. And so if a job was posted 3 months ago or 3 weeks ago, you can almost guarantee that there's probably already people in the interview stages. But most hiring for early career is like they wait until everyone applies, they shut down the application, and then they start replying to people. So after that, you go through, on average, 2 to 3 stages. So, but for technical roles, it could be up to like 5 stages. I think Google has like 7 stages. It can be crazy, like how many stages of interviews do you do? But on average and potentially ethically, like 3 stages is like what you can expect of like talking to someone, maybe doing 1 or 2 technical interviews, talking to the hiring manager, and then you potentially move to offer from there.
Dang. Yeah, I always recommend people to set aside almost like 6+ months if they want to land like a home run gig, right? Because it does take a while. Cool. All right. We got a bunch of questions from the community. Let's see. Let me pull up a few. Okay. So from Valérie in Discord, Valerie's a super user. What are common deal breakers for recruiters when reviewing applications?
Good question. I think one of the reviewing applications, oftentimes deal breakers come through like things that they literally cannot hire for. So a lot of companies, unfortunately, have rules against hiring for if you need a visa or something like that. I would say if you do need a visa, then I would do your research on whether or not that company can allow that, or if you need H-1B sponsorship or something like that. So that is one of the first reasons. Like there's usually a question in the application that says, will you need this in the future? And if you mark yes, and that company can't support that, then that's like a surefire way to just not even get your resume looked at. And I've done the fighting for people. Like I've really done that. And I haven't been successful when I've been at a company who says we can't do this, and then I've gotten them to do that. Yeah. Now I only have a series of 4 companies under my belt, so maybe there is possible. It's something that we're thinking about for the dev difference of trying to get people, like trying to get that process a little bit more clear so that companies feel like they can do it, as opposed to just being like, oh, I don't even know what that is. Like, I'm not doing that. I think a lot of it is ignorance. But anyway, that is one way that, just like not being aware of what the company can do. Other times they'll write in the description, we can only hire people based in California, or we can only hire people based in Chicago. If you live in Wisconsin, or if you live in a different place than what they said that they are only hiring people in, I mean, you can give it a shot. But most likely they're going to be like, I said I can't hire here. I still can't hire here. And most of the reasons as they do that is for tax benefits or for some sort of like thing that is beyond you. It's not like, oh, I'll hire in Wisconsin if it's a really good candidate. It's like no, I get a tax break if I hire in this location. And so I'm going to try as much as I can to do that. So I would pay attention to those questions and the details in the job description and kind of like just navigate around those.
Totally. So when we hire for a Codédex, we sometimes add in like NYC preferred. You almost have to be like an outlier, right? If there's 2 candidates in front of me and I'm trying to build an in-person hybrid team and let's say everything's the same, I'll definitely pick the New York one. So it's just way less chance. So definitely look at the details of the job description. Here's another question from Juan Pablo from OPC, from the Codédex community. What are some entry-level roles in tech that are typically open to people without formal industry experience? Like, what are some roles that you think people should go for with a higher chance of getting into the door?
I would say startups. That sounds a little weird too. But I would say, yeah, I know so many startups that are just looking for someone who can do anything. They come to me, well, not anything, but they come to me, they're like, I need a developer who can make a website. I'm like, I know plenty of those. A lot of startups have no idea how to hire. And so they would rather people come to them or get referred or something like that because they don't know how to go out looking for talent. And if they post the job, it's gonna get swamped under all the other companies that are like bigger and have more presence in the algorithm. So it's just harder for them to actually like attract talent. I would say look for like local companies, maybe check out like some competitions and like see who's winning, like reach out to them, see who's coming in second, reach out and be like, hey, I like what you're doing. I'm doing something similar with projects. Like, do you need a developer? They might pay you less than a full-time salary. There's probably no benefits, but you get paid to do some stuff early on. I think other things are like, I had a student actually in our podcast on the Dev Difference, one of the students at Howard. So she's a third year now. And she talks about how during high school, she made money on Fiverr. Doing Roblox projects. So she was 17 and she was just making money on Fiverr. So I think there's lots of ways that we can just like use the tools at our disposal. It's not going to be as fancy. Obviously, you want like a full-time job with benefits and you're like, I'm a grown person. I hear you. There are steps to it. You kind of have to do smaller things before you're ready or before someone can trust that you do bigger things, unless you have a really great referral.
Stepping stone jobs. I highly recommend. People always look at other senior engineers like, how do you end up at Microsoft? How do you end up at Google? Well, they've done 2 or 3 other things before that,
Yeah.
Cool. Here's a question from AW from Discord. What's the best way to approach a recruiter on LinkedIn without sounding desperate or generic?
That's hard.
Yeah.
That's hard.
The co-stock.
I think you got to get over the desperate thing. You got to get over it. Potentially you are desperate, or you need to come across as desperate. You don't want to be like, I need this, please help me. That's not what I mean. But you saying, hey, I applied, but I just want to get your eyes on it. I just want to say, hey, like that, like, I don't know what you mean by desperate per se, but if you feel like reaching out at all seems desperate, then just get over it and do it often. Yeah, I'm not even going to hold you. I paid for the LinkedIn Premium for a while and it worked. I got messages back from people who probably wouldn't have even accepted my connect, which, hate to give them more business, but it does work to get you your job, or at least get, like I was at a conference and they were like, connect with me on LinkedIn. And I'm thinking, these people, or they would be like, message me on LinkedIn. And I'm like, you have to accept my connect for me to message. But I pay for LinkedIn Premium and then I could just message them and they'd be, oh, I'm so glad you messaged me. And in their head, they're probably like, this girl follows up. But in reality, I had to pay for that. So I hate to say that, but I would say just try to be genuine. Yeah, I wouldn't give your story. Like, I've been job seeking for 6 months and, I really need to, I wouldn't do that. I would just be like, hey, like I have these experiences. They really align to this company. I'm super excited. I already applied.
Right.
You've already applied. That's a great thing to say because then I could just go pull your resume. I've already applied. If you can figure out the hiring managers get a lot less messages on their LinkedIn. And so they're more likely to be like, hey, Jovanay, just got this person who messaged me on LinkedIn. And I'm always like, okay. But they love to be like, and I can't then tell the hiring manager, no, I'm not going to go look at that person. So if you find a hiring manager somehow, that's a golden key, which I don't know how you will, but sometimes you do.
Noted. I gotta have LinkedIn Premium. I don't even know how much it is, but I remember it was a lot. But I'm fundraising right now for Codédex
or something.
Yeah, but I like that. I was like, I'm gonna subscribe to that immediately tonight after this because I'm like, it does make a big deal.
Yeah, only if you're gonna use it. Like, don't waste your money. But if you have a strategy to job seeking and you're like, I'm applying for 20 jobs a week and I'm going to message at least 10 of those recruiters, then I think it's worth it.
Totally. A little hack I've been doing, I can just share here since the end of the podcast so people don't know it. I'm fundraising for Codédex right now. And a lot of these investors are really hard to reach, right? And you usually want warm intros.
Right.
So there's the Loom CTO, Loom, like the video recording company. They just sold and the CTO made $100 million. He's been blowing up on Twitter. He's like a little lost right now in Hawaii. I found his name on Venmo and I just sent him 2 cents and just say, hey, Jovanay, can I get your 2 cents on this check?
Did that work?
What?
Did that work?
Yeah, I saw it open. The deck got opened like 4 times in the last 2 days.
Oh, wow.
But I think that would be way easier if I just had to get LinkedIn Premium.
Yeah, you only paid 2 cents.
Right. True.
I had a warm intro once and we talked about email marketing for a while. And then I was like, okay, great. She recommended a book to me. I had her email. And so I just bought a digital copy of that book and sent it to her because she was telling me she hadn't read it.
Well played.
And she was like, wow, thanks so much for doing this. And I was like, I think the book was like $6.
But I think it's gestures like this that completely It's beyond memorable. Like it's
Yeah.
1 out of 100, situation. I always remember those moments when somebody just do a little bit more than what's being asked. Cool. All right.
Someone asked, is it okay for sophomores to not have internships? I heard from my mentor, freshmen and sophomores don't get hired a lot. And that's a good point. I would say, just focus on getting good at the skills that you're being taught. If you have a recording of a video or something like that you can do, that's a perfect time to start building a portfolio of your projects.
Here's one from Samppiii. How can a CS student build a standout portfolio of projects that will catch your attention, Jovanay?
That's a good question. I would say it depends on the company. It should be like relevant to the company or relevant to just make things you're passionate about, regardless of the company. Just make something you care about and you're passionate about. And then if you happen to find companies that are doing what you're doing, matchmake like that, as opposed to being like, let me just find a company and make a project based off what they do. Like if you like music, make something that has to do with music and then maybe send that to Spotify. I think that's going to stand out way more than, just any project. I don't want you to also waste your time, right? Like
totally
do things you're passionate about.
And here's one last question from Coder Blue 10 here in the room with us. Mm-hmm. Which roles should we go for in the age of AI?
That's a good question and something that we talk a lot about in my master's program.
Question. Yeah.
I would say don't be afraid to still go after things, that you're passionate about. I think people are very afraid right now. And there is a fair point around like full stack and things like that having some attack. Like you're not wrong. But everything will continue to change. So just get good at something and just be good at that thing. People always need quality testing. Probably with more AI, stuff is going to be more buggy and you're going to need more quality testing. If you got some time to do some machine learning and understand natural language processing and things like that, that would be great. But I wouldn't put a lot of pressure on yourself because that content can be a little dense sometimes. Mm-hmm. If you are a designer or you're creative in any way, those jobs are going to be way more valuable and it's going to be much more because we can't tell the AI to code something if we don't have designs for it. Or we could tell the design AI to design something, but it's oftentimes not exactly what we want. And so I would say there's probably going to be more area of opportunity for someone with a designer's eye. Mm-hmm. But overall, I would say don't be afraid. Just do what you love. Like, honestly, I would follow that as a home star every time. Just do what you love and opportunities will come.
And one last one is from Daniel from CCNY. What does referral look like in the back end for a recruiter at Google? What does the referral look like in the like?
Yeah. I will say pretty much everybody who applies to Google has a referral. Like it's not even like it is like it just is. Pretty much everybody has a referral. It's not to scare you if you don't. I'm just saying when they're so common, it doesn't really mean as much. Yeah, unless you get a referral from like, a product lead or someone who is like pretty high up. Most people have referrals at Google. So what it looks like on the back end is we go also internally at Google, they have a sourcing platform internally. So we source through everyone who's ever applied to Google as if it's LinkedIn. Like imagine the same keyword process. Everything is pretty much the same algorithmically. So I type in, I need someone who knows Android and who knows operating systems and maybe C++ and see what resumes come up. And from there, like you can see different things. You can see if they have a referral, if they've interviewed before, what they got on their last interview.
Oh, wow.
All of that. And so some people you can't contact because they just interviewed, 4 months ago and you have to wait 6 months or maybe a year. I can't remember the timeline, but little things like that. You have people who it'll show who, a lot of times Google is a big company. So a lot of people are working on the HR team. And so you'll have a lot of maybe someone else who's already their recruiter. And so you find someone and you're like, oh, they already have a recruiter. So a lot of sourcing is done internally at Google. Yeah.
I guess that's how it works in the machine, like behind the curtain.
Yeah. It's
that's really wild.
That's why I'd say you do a mix and match with your resumes and your LinkedIn, like talk to humans, but also talk to the computer. Mm-hmm. That's another reason why I say don't get too crazy on creativity, because if the computer cannot read your resume,
true,
then you're not going to show up.
Right. Cool. Well, Jovanay, I think we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah. Thank you for doing this, by the way. I mean, yeah, I'm great catching up. I learned a lot. I mean, I didn't know that's how it worked in Google. That's wild to me. Like, it's so different how I do it. I'm just
Right?
like looking at a job post and LinkedIn. How can people follow you? And how do people follow the Dev Difference? Do you want to just give a little?
Yeah, you can follow Dev Difference. We're really active on LinkedIn and Instagram. So you can just find us, the Dev Difference. You can also, like, if you go to our website, you can subscribe and we send emails and do the other things like that. Or you can practice it, try it out, and then send me a message and be like, hey, I totally love this, or this thing sucks. Either way, I appreciate the feedback.
Cool. And it is the devdifference.com. There we go. Cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Thanks so much for having me. Thank you guys for
listening. Thank you so much, Jovanay. Yeah. Next time in New York, please let me know. I think you said next month, right?
Yeah,
please
I'm coming next month. So
I'd love to get you coffee and just catch up in person.
Yeah, that sounds great. All right. Good luck, guys. Best of luck in your job searches.
Cool. Thank you all for being here, and happy Wednesday.